So I got to go back a couple of months. You mind if I go back in time a couple of months, Brady Quinn? All right, because
sure.
I just want to tell you a story.
Okay.
So it was early on in the football season, and it was a Saturday evening, and I'm on a walk with my son. He's got one of these little these little cars you push him in, and it's nice out, and he's just kind of we're hanging out. It's like early evening. Yeah, and I also have kind of my phone propped up because I was watching a big-time game that was on. And again, a Saturday evening.
And any money on this game?
No, I didn't. But I had a lot of interest in this game because it was a great matchup to start out the year. It was Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Wow, okay.
And so I'm kind of, peeking at this. And then I see, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, comes up lame a little bit. Like there was some sort of an issue, like an injury or whatever. And then it occurred to me a few minutes ago, I haven't really seen him much since then for some reason for Ohio State. And I'm starting to look and go, well, he's kind of appeared in a couple of games, like the Iowa game. I think he played a little bit against Toledo, but and I'm assuming they're playing for a national title, that he would be a part of this run for a championship for the Ohio State Buckeyes. That would be my assumption since they're playing for a national title because they did make the college football playoff. And those semifinal games aren't until the end of the month. So, I would assume we'd all be ready to go. And as it turns out, nope. That'll do it. So the run for Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the stud receiver from Ohio State, has come to an end. He's going to go ahead and focus on his NFL career and get ready for the draft, and that's a wrap on a disappointing final season for him in Columbus. What the hell, man? What the hell's going on here?
I'll tell you what it is. I'll just be very blunt with this, okay? Agents are getting dug into these kids while they're in college, and they're persuading them not to play. That is the bottom line. Once you showcase the ability to play at the next level, they start to sign with these agents, or they have a wink-wink, nod-nod agreement, because technically you can't sign with an agent. But where you can sign with an agent, and this is the incestuous, I guess, world that we're living in college football, you can't sign with a contract agent for once you get to the NFL, but you can sign with that agency for marketing for an NIL. So think about that for a second. If you're an agency that wants this player once they get, out from college and go into the draft, you can't sign with them for your contract, but you can sign with them to do marketing for you while you're in college. So that decision's already been made as far as who he's signing with now as he heads into the draft. And so he's receiving advice from that agency, from that group, as to how he should proceed in college football. And so it's one of two things. Either it's that, or he has the worst hamstring injury in the history of hamstrings. Like since God first made Adam and Eve and created their hamstrings, he has somehow throughout humanity the worst hamstring injury we have ever seen in the history of the world, which I highly doubt. And so it irks me, it bothers me that, this young man has the opportunity to play for a national championship, which should matter. And instead he's opting out to look on to his future. Which is great. Look, your future's going to be there regardless, all right? If you're wondering, how bad could his hamstring injury be, give me a break. I'm not even sure that any sort of insurance policy out there would exist to make a hamstring injury worse. Usually when you go into those bowl games, you can get an insurance policy where if you get injured and your draft stock is impacted by that, you can get paid out millions. I had one that would have paid me $14.4 million going into my final year at Notre Dame. And that was back in 2006. I can only imagine what it is now. So there's all sorts of ways of protecting yourself financially. A lot of times the schools will do it for you because they have the funds available to do so. And your agents that are helping you will help you find those policies to protect you. So if you're really about ball, if you're really about winning championships, you could have it all set up so you don't have any concerns whatsoever walking on the field and potentially facing an injury. So there is no explanation outside of he's gotten advice from an agent that he's showcased enough that he's going to be drafted and he doesn't need to play anymore at the college level. And I would sit there and say anyone who wants to refute that or wants to say, oh, you're being hard on this kid, at some point, you have to know what these kids are about, what their true intentions are. Because when they get to the NFL level, that only goes so far. And I think he's the type of kid, by the way, that based on his film looks pretty good a year ago. Obviously didn't do anything this year. I don't know that he's a 4.4 40 guy. He's probably a high 4.4 guy. He's not the fastest. He's not the biggest. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. So it's going to impact his draft stock. Now, the only thing that helps his draft stock is Keyshawn Bouette out of LSU, who was draft eligible, could have been one of the top guys. He didn't have great film either. He actually just declared to come back for another season at LSU. Marvin Harrison Jr., his teammate who's better than him and is a better draft prospect than him, he's probably going to win the Blitnikoff this year for the best receiver in college football. He's not draft eligible yet. He's going to wait another year. So the best thing he has going for him is the fact that he can still get drafted high because it might not be a very deep class for the wide receiver position because of some of the guys that are out there in the seasons they had, et cetera.
I mean, he was great last year. He had 95 catches. He had over 1,600 yards. Like, he put up the numbers. But I think that, like, here's where people are going to maybe push back. But I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. People are going to say, well, it's his choice. He's looking out for his future. Okay, that's fine. But this felt like this was a 3-month build. Like, it felt like he was maybe kind of, well, I'm trying my hardest. Man, I'd love to be back. I'd love to play. I'd love to participate. And I would just imagine that there's probably guys in that locker room or maybe coaches on that staff that are like, are you serious? Like this is still going on. And then ultimately, this is what they ended up deciding to do. Yeah, we're just going to focus on our NFL career. I think that's the problem. Like, look, Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette not wanting to play in their bowl game or not wanting, and I remember they were getting a little bit of heat from some people, but it's like, all right, they're running backs. They've taken a beating. They're not playing for national championships.
Yeah, I was just saying, the type of bowl game they're playing for should matter to some degree. This is for a national championship.
And it's not like they did this months in advance. I mean, this injury occurred on September 3rd. Like, it wasn't a season ender. Like, he came back a couple of weeks later, and then he appeared. He had a catch against Iowa, in October. It's like, at some point, what are we doing here? Like, that, I think that's the part that would probably piss a lot of people off and probably rub a lot of people the wrong way. So I just don't buy the whole, well, let him, it's his future. He can do what he wants. Okay, that's fine. But at the same time, kind of a bad look. And I would imagine if you're one of these NFL teams and you're having a conversation with them at the pre-draft meetings, isn't this something you're going to be asking them about?
For sure. And here's the one of the deeper issue, too, for Buckeyes fans out there. And I think for any other school out there that's got, players that, are playing for a team that has a shot at winning a national championship, or at least one of those blue blood teams that's in contention for it. It's one of the reasons why Michigan's kicking your ass the past 2 years. Is because I think there's more of a concern about your draft status, your draft stock for these guys at Ohio State right now, as opposed to trying to win a national championship. And understanding that with winning a championship, all good things are going to come from that. One of the things that I talked to, Matt and Reggie about when they went on that kind of historic run there at USC is, they had guys getting drafted left and right. And you could sit there and say, well, they were a really talented team, and they were. But you know what helps make you look a little even better than you are? When you win a national championship. Like, when you're a part of championship caliber winning teams, it makes you look even a little bit better than you actually are. And a lot of those guys, I don't want to say a lot, but some of them got overdrafted. They were drafted higher than they should have been. But it's because they had the gold, shiny luster of a national championship or back-to-back national championships kind of, surrounding them and win streaks surrounding them. So it's just, to me, like, looking at that, I hate it for the game. I hate it for all his teammates, his coaches, everyone else who's sacrificed and has done the exact opposite. Guys who have played through injuries. I think it was Tommy Eichenberg. I think their linebackers, one of them was playing with, like, broken thumbs. I mean, it's just the whole thing is nuts.
He's got 2 broken thumbs?
Yeah, well, one of them was playing with, like, 2 broken thumbs.
What?
And I could have, literally. Like, just tape me up. Let me go, coach. I mean, you have guys who are sacrificing like that, then you have other guys who just go out there and they find a life vest. And they jump overboard. Like, I'm good. I'm going to go wait for someone else to come pick me up.
Well, it's like, look at Devontae Smith. So Devontae Smith, not only, so he wins the Heisman, it's the COVID year. He wins the Heisman, still decides, I'm going to play in the national championship game. They go to the college football playoff. He plays in the national championship game. He gets banged up in that game. No regrets. No, should I have done it? Should I not have done it? And what is he, like 125 pounds? And still was out there and got drafted and is a pretty damn good NFL receiver. I don't know. And that was the year. If any year that you were going to go ahead and excuse a guy who was going to be picked near the top of the draft, the COVID year, they were giving everybody an out. That guy didn't take the out and was still there and still playing and got injured, but wore it and then went to the next level. By the way, Jalen Smith, didn't Jalen Smith have he had something like that set up when he got injured in the bowl game? Didn't he have what was it, like $8 to $10 million or something like that?
It was an insurance policy.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's the thing that rubs me the wrong way too. Is anytime you're critical of someone who's in this position, you're gonna get some people who are like, "Well, you don't know that family, you don't know that kid, you know what? I don't. All I know is my experience when I decided to come back for an additional year. Could have gotten drafted after my junior year. Decided not to. Decided to come back, risk whatever injury, risk whatever came along with that." And made sure I had an insurance policy set up to protect me, which, by the way, now universities pay for. It didn't used to be like that. Back then I had to take out that insurance policy myself. The premium on that alone was $200,000. So think about that. I'm leaving school at that time having debt that I had to pay off purely because I wanted so badly to come back, to get my degree, to try to win a national championship, to be with my teammates, all those things. And yet I had to then pay that off as soon as I got enough money from playing in the NFL because I wanted that additional opportunity to do all those things or have a chance of doing all those things. So if you feel like I'm being unfair and being critical right now, kick rocks because you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, don't kick him too hard. You might hurt your hamstring. And we've seen that can really derail an entire season. So I would advise you not to do that. Also,
again, going back to the creation of Adam and Eve, it might be the worst hamstring injury we've ever seen in our lives.
He's got to have cotton candy for hamstrings. You ever?
By the way, Caleb Williams was limping through an entire half of football in the Pac-12 championship game, playing with what is described to be a much more significant hamstring injury. Probably not going to play in the Cotton Bowl, at least as it looks right now. And yet trying to fight has no reason to be out there. The kid already has the Heisman locked up. He's already going to be the number one overall pick in the 2024 draft, most likely. And yet he's doing it, sacrificing that for his team. There's one example of it, by the way, a direct relation to a hamstring injury where one guy's trying to play through it for his team and another guy doesn't even want to have a shot to go play for a national championship. Are you kidding me?